Hey guys, so I bought a bunch of stuff. I sat down, I practiced my cutting. So what's next? Now it's time to learn how to take something like this and turn it into something like these. Stick around. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is marking the tiles. You're going to need a straight edge, and you're going to need a Sharpie. What you're going to do is use your straight edge and mark across the piece. If you want to do any type of designs, then don't use a straight edge, just mark across your piece. The Sharpie will kind of burn a little bit into the foam and give you a slight indentation. The next thing you're going to do is take one of your razor blades. Do a small incision just across whatever marking that you make. This will help open up the foam. Then take a very dull number 2 pencil and drag it across each one of those cut marks. This is going to create a much deeper, much more pronounced indentation for you to work from. If you want any details, let's say you want to add stonework or a stonework effect to this, cobblestone, brick, this is where you'd start to draw in those particular features. You're going to do the exact same thing. Draw them in using your Sharpie, whatever pattern you feel most comfortable with. I would suggest, though, if you do any type of stonework, make sure to round the edges as much as possible, even if it looks like you're going to be missing a few small pieces. Hand carving is one of those things that takes a while, but it does give you a very good look. Again, just like you did when you were working with drawing the lines, use a dull number 2 pencil. This is going to help create a deeper indentation and look more like a normal grout line would. The next method is to use a hot wire tool. If you went to Walmart and picked up the same one that I did, I plugged this one into a 1.0 charger so that I wouldn't fully cut through the piece. You can slowly drag this across the foam to create the same channel lines. I will give you a heads up, this is not my favorite method, simply because trying to carve in the detail is very difficult with a tool like this. Line it up, apply even pressure, and roll it directly across your piece. I did, however, notice that this works and the texture takes better on pieces that have recently been cut with a Proxxon or a hot wire cutter. Now, instead of stone, if you were trying to achieve a aged wood look, then take your ruler, draw vertical lines across your foam. They can vary anywhere between 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Add some perpendicular markings to every other row at the top and at the bottom. And then somewhere in the middle, the rows that don't have those perpendicular markings, add some there. Then take your razor blade and come across those vertical marks, the same as you did when you were carving out the stone floor. Don't forget to get the little perpendicular marks as well. This is going to create separation between the wood planks. Then follow that up by taking your pencil and dragging it directly across each one of those lines to help further the indentation. The final step that you're going to do is pull your fine tip Sharpie back out again. And everywhere you have a perpendicular line, put 2 holes above it and 2 holes below it. When you go to decorate this piece later on, it's going to look like old nails. Now that you've seen some carving, let's talk about texturing these. Rolled up foil is going to help you transfer random divots and dents into the foam itself. You can either roll it on there or you can stamp it in, but what I do suggest is you put enough pressure in there that you can really see the texture, because if you can really see it, then the paint will highlight it very, very well. Now keep in mind, this rolled up foil, this is to help you create a stone-like texture, that rough texture you see from most rocks. It's not something that you want to apply to a wooden floor. Now for a wooden floor, you want to take out either a brass or a steel brush and drag it in the same direction as the overall wood planks. As you do this, apply just a little bit of pressure, and after a few passes, you'll start to see lines and texture carve out of that foam, and it will look surprisingly like real wood. One thing you want to do with every piece that you make is take a small or an old rolled up foil ball, and you want to drag it across each one of these edges. You want to break up that edge just enough to where it's no longer a hard pointed side. It's a little bit more rounded off. You can also do this with a nail file. Unfortunately, I don't have one in the studio, so I just use the foil ball. The rolling pin method, it works so-so, especially if you use it on foam that hasn't been recently cut with a hot wire tool. The Sharpie and the pencil method, this takes time, but I think you end up with a much cleaner and better outcome. The wood floor method with a wire brush, that turns out very, very nice. And finally, I do not recommend using a hot wire tool to carve with. I don't think it gives you a believable effect by the time you're done. Now, one last thing I want to show you is I do have some foam core board that I peeled some of the paper off on that does have XPS foam inside of it. I did the same wood floor technique on that foam, and I think by far that had a much better look than even the foam piece did. I think that foam core board is just a little bit softer, and it takes that texture a lot better. I'll leave that to you to decide on what you want to do with your projects. I follow a channel called Black Magic Craft, and Jeremy has a modular dungeon tile system, which is where I figured I would start because it's probably the most basic entry point of getting into this hobby. So everything that I've watched is based on a 1-inch grid. Now he tries to keep his tiles to a 3" by 3" for the modular systems, which is where I'm going to start as well. You can also do 3" by 6" pieces, 6" by 6" pieces, 6" by 12 pieces, but be careful. The 6 by 12 pieces can possibly warp as you add paint. Also, you can do 12" by 12" pieces, but again you run into the same problem. It can warp when you paint. Now, depending on what type of foam you have, you may have to cut that foam down. The 1" and the 1.5" thick foam isn't the most ideal size to use for creating flooring. I prefer to use the Dow foam from my Lowe's store, which is only a 1/2" thick. Now, as you can see, these 3" by 3" tiles are very, very versatile. If you cut a 1" grid into each one of them, then you end up with 9 squares. On your classic D&D tables, that's going to help you maintain your movement. Now, these 3 by 3 tiles can be assembled all the way up into any shape that you need them to be assembled. As you can see, I have a 3 by 6, I have a 6 by 6, I have a couple of just 3" tiles, and then I also have one of the 12 by 12 tiles. So stick around, and in the next part, we'll continue on with trying to create these dungeon tiles. Well, I guess that's a wrap on this session. If you liked what you saw, give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if there's any techniques that maybe I need to look into that I haven't run across yet. If you're one of the ones that have found this series helpful and you'd like to become one of our backers, look down in the links below in the description and you'll see a link over to our Patreon page. You'll help to continue to fund projects like this one. Thanks, and keep on adventuring.